This game, as Lautaro, I played actually quite a while ago, um, and it was one of those games where I had the recordings with me, but I never really had any audio overlay on it. And yeah, I finally got around to um, basically, yeah, I just found this video, and when I was browsing through my collection and figured I should probably put some audio overlay on this. So the video, the gameplay, actual gameplay, is in 2x. So things will kind of happen a little too fast. Um, this was a this is Mapuche, and the leader is Lautaro. And again, I mean, it's no, he's not so much of an exceptional leader. He's kind of a jack of all. The important thing about him is he can build these gemuil improvements, which they can only be built on like breathtaking tiles, and they give you a lot of culture. Besides that, there is a Malon rider unit, which can be pretty useful for war. But beyond that, it is you want to play this play Mapuche pretty much as an ABC civ and see where the game takes you. Now we did spawn like very close to a continental divide, and that actually played a large part into how I played my game. Because I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure I put my first city down south. Um, and yeah, and the whole idea was to like pretty much expand as fast as possible. I think, yeah, I believe I had like religion in mind in the early game, but that pretty much fell off as the game went on. Um, yeah, another interesting thing about this war game was my settling spot. Usually, like whenever I see a four food settle, whether it's a citrus tile or a sugar tile, even if I have to move two tiles for it, I typically always go for it. It's an excellent growth start if you can manage it. Um, yeah, and yeah, at this point we have met two city states, one cultural and one trade, and yeah, the plan here. Right, I mean, my build order was pretty much consistent at this point. Had a scout, slinger, builder, and then I had a few settlers pretty soon, I think. Um, yeah, the right. Um, yeah, when I met Hatusa and I realized that I'm not the first meet on them, I knew that there was somebody north of me. And there at that point, yeah, I met the Dutch pretty much. I think, yeah, Dutch was the first ones that I met. Um, but yeah, the idea was to explore and to kind of figure out what kind of a land we are looking at. Um, in the early game, it was very like by this point, I believe I was fairly convinced that unless I end up in a serious forward settle to a neighbor, I'm not going to get rushed. Um, yeah, okay, yeah. I believe at this point, the Dutch were being harassed by lots of barbarians. Yeah, we continued exploring. Yeah, this was a Pangea map, I believe. I think abundant resources, legendary start, um, and I think, yeah, no barbarians, clans. I think I did play with monopolies and corporations, though. I think that was enabled. And I believe I did that because I wanted to keep the option of a culture victory open. and monopolies give you a good sense of that. Um, Meeting India, and especially Chandragupta, especially when he could potentially be close to you, was a yeah was not the best thing I felt, because um, Chandragupta Maurya, he does not like it when he has neighbors. He doesn't want neighbors, and I felt at this point in time I was thinking if there is any early war, it's going to come from the north. um, so basically, I was very tentative, putting any city settle up north of where my capital is. Um, and yeah, and essentially at this point, guarding against a potential attack was kind of top of mind for me. And yeah, but pretty much that's why I believe I put my first city south of my capital. Um, yeah, those meteor sites were actually pretty useful when you're not playing barbarian clans, because they give you early units, and those early units really end up um, helping. Um, yep, that's a spot I went to. Correct. Um, at this point, I realized that the I'm well within sight of discovering the Galapagos Islands, and pretty much should be able to manage a settle next to it. Um, Not the best wonder for the Mapuche to find, but essentially it made a coastal settle invaluable. Um, because I mean it's a monster wonder if you ever end up having harbors, and you have a plan around building the mausoleum of Halicarnassus and anything else, and that's pretty much what I pinned down. Um, yep. Um, yep. That gave us, yeah. I don't remember if I got a golden age this era. Um, don't think so. Yeah, I believe I was building a settler at this point, or one very shortly. Yep, he is still happy that we don't have we're not close to him. Yeah, barbs were did become a nuisance at one point. Don't recall um, the exact mechanics. I would have loved to have recorded this game turn by turn, because it turned out pretty well eventually, as you will see. Um, yeah, Caesar was somewhere. Was to my actually ended up being to my southeast. Um, yeah, Caesar worried me about as much as Chandragupta Maurya does. Um, but because I didn't see him and we didn't see our cities, it wasn't as big of a problem. But I was definitely thinking that at some point, if I want a friend in the game, it needs to be Caesar in the early game. Um, and yeah, pretty much was playing with that in mind. But as you will see, things will get interesting in the next 50 turns. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was not playing Monopolies and Corporations this game. Typically, in my experience playing Monopolies and Corporations, generally speaking, it is good to pick that mode if you're not sure about what victory type you're going to go, and especially if you have if you're playing a save that can pretty much go in any direction. But I don't quite remember what my thought process was to not pick a secret society this game. Um, I must have been expecting to play a certain play style. Um, but yeah, but at this point in the game, I had met a lot of city states. I think we began with like 18 city states on the map, and we found all of them in good time. But the yeah, it did get a little challenging in the middle, but it was a fun game. I don't recall what pantheon I ended up picking. Yeah, I believe it was Sacred Path, and it was really yeah. I didn't have a good choice of pantheon or nothing that really benefits me, and I think yeah, this may have been a mistake in the long run, I guess, because I picked Sacred Path, and then I think I forgot about the fact what pantheon it was. Because if you'll see, if you pay close attention to how I play some of my districts, yeah, they did kind of fall all over the place. Um, yeah, so the whole religion play around religion was completely misplayed, I believe, but it didn't matter because the overall game ended up being pretty strong. Um, yeah, we had met Mongolia, Kublai Khan by then, and the whole plan was to like crank out as many settlers as possible. Um, yeah, that holy site was pretty good, but I think that was about the only. I think maybe I had not more than two or three holy sites total. I didn't get a religion, so didn't actually work out. Oh, I remember what this was. So, well, when I was deciding which, and this is kind of makes me feel dumb, when I was deciding which pantheon to get, I was seriously considering getting the pantheon that gives me a river, like the pantheon that gives you um, amenities and housing when you place holy sites next to rivers. That was the one I was going to pick, but I picked sacred sites, which gives me an adjacency next to a rainforest. But however, every holy site I put down was next to a river. So I thought in it was pretty much for the entire game. I had this brain fog where I believed I had both things active. That is the river holy site pantheon and sacred path, and I was pretty much planning like that. It didn't make any sense, but that's what happened. And when I realized it in the end, I was yeah, it was kind of funny, but yeah, luckily it didn't hurt us much in the long run in the game. Somewhere around this time, I realized that Chandragupta was actually happy with us. Um, and I don't remember which turn this happened, but the moment I realized it, I immediately became friends with him. And I think pretty much kept him as a friend through the rest of the game. Um, the funny thing was, like, once that happened, it basically I could relax completely on my northern front and not worry about anything that could be coming down from the north. And he did end up forward settling, putting some city settles down close. But overall, it didn't bother me much because if you notice, there is this whole block of desert north of the capital, and I mean, either of us could have settled it. He chose to settle it quite late, and overall, India kind of was very did not bother us at all in this game. He did, however, and I'm not sure. It's very close to this point now. It's going to happen at some point very soon. But he did take out Hatusa, which was a bit of a. I think at this point we had like one on envoy in Hatusa, which hurts. And Hatusa is a actually pretty decent city state to have around in the game if you don't have strategics. So yeah, but it was fine. Yeah, pretty much the rest of the game, it was all about making sure we clear the land, keep the land free of barbarians, and essentially find a way to move in. Yeah. Yeah, feels great to snipe camps every once in a while. Yeah, we were meeting our other civs in the game. This was an 8 civ game, and we found six, and there are two more to be found, which were actually it didn't take too long. The other two were found pretty in good order. Um, yeah, at this point, I had pretty much secured the land to the west of my capital, and yeah, there was an Indian. Yeah, there was temptation in the mix happening, but it didn't. We left him alone. He that settler from Chandragupta wandered like seriously south, and then may went all the way up and settled somewhere close to his capital. But I'm sure there was a had his effect towards us not been positive. I'm pretty sure he would have forward settled us, and this game would have taken a whole different direction. Um, yeah, By now, I had a good sense of what kind of land my immediate land looked like and what should be like a natural border for my cities. Um, and yeah, it was kind of the city states, the way they were placed, did kind of feel like they might be. They would have ended up forcing me to settle in places which are not the best spots, but it was fine. I believe, yeah. I haven't, yeah, I haven't friended. I really believed. I thought I had friended Chandragupta much earlier. I guess I got lucky um, by him actually staying positive with us for this long. Yeah, there was a nice chunk of iron right between those two cities. Yeah, I was trying for the religion. Actually, now I'm wondering if I got the religion at all, but just didn't pay attention to it. Yeah, sort of chased him away. Yeah, the combination of city states placements and the natural mountain ranges created a very natural barrier between me and most of my neighbors. Um, Definitely, the ones further away were very isolated and hard to get to. Um, I'm pretty sure that in the around the first 50 turns, I was thinking of domination as a possible option. But the way the land was, and thinking about how many cities I'm going to be putting down and everything, I think yeah, I had given up on Dom pretty early. But as you will see, yeah, it wasn't a purely peaceful game. Yeah, it was about this time that the Dutch declared war on Muscat. And if you notice, Muscat is right on my doorstep. Now, I wasn't too worried about Dutch conquering Muscat because the way my loyalty was going to build up, I don't think the Dutch would have held on to that city completely. Um, but definitely, they were trying to get a foothold into our land, so to speak. It was very likely that they would put a city settle somewhere between Muscat and their borders. And for me, I was just waiting and watching and to see how what they're ending up doing. Um, but yeah, but what happened was pretty interesting to say the least. Yeah, so I'd choose Hattusa by this point, and pretty much realized that that Suze is going to be very short lived, because Chandragupta's troops were like moving in. Yeah, it was about this time when I started planning how my districts are going to look like. Um, yeah, overall, my gameplay slowed down quite a bit around this phase. Just, I mean, it's natural to take longer for plate turns as the higher turns roll in, but specifically for me, I did a lot of rejiggering, moving, and changing plans around what I had thought about initially. Um, yeah, things did slow down a bit. Yeah, I believe at some point, yeah, my scouting units did not survive too long this game. It inevitably happens. Um, I'm pretty sure I ended up in a golden age this game. Um, don't remember what we picked after that. Um, yeah, it must have been monumentality, I believe. Um, in fact, I honestly don't even remember if I had managed to get a religion this game. Um, yeah, the Dutch were at war with Muscat, and yeah, things were coming to a head there. In Pual Mapu, I was pretty much focused on Mausoleum of Halicarnassus. Um, that wonder not only improves the sea tiles, every great engineer basically gets like an extra charge into whatever they're doing, and that's very, very powerful. And especially in a city like that, which is like a Galapagos city or even like a Great Barrier Reef city, where all the tiles have benefits and can be improved further uh, with the wonder. It gets crazy. Oh yeah, I did get the great profit. Yeah, I'm not sure what I did with the religion though. Yeah, picking the religion stuff was, yeah, I think I did end up picking work ethic eventually. Work ethic is pretty much a de facto choice for me in most games because it kind of keeps the option open to different victory types. Reliquaries pushes you to culture, and the others push you into very specific directions. Um, yeah, at this point, we were just trying to raise gold. I forget for what, but yeah, yeah. I opted to build boats faster, I think. Yep. Yeah, around this time, Caesar was happy with us too, and we ended up friending him. Yeah, right after he captures a city state, he's upset with us because we are too close to him. But yeah, but once we since we were already friends, it did not turn uh, or the effect negative towards us. Um, it was fine. Yeah, the Dutch had raised Muscat by this time, and pretty much gave me an opening for a city settle in that area. Um, I did send Dutch a trade route, but as you will see, it didn't really make them feel any better for us. Because if it's not clear by now, it should be pretty much. I can state this categorically that our war is going to happen from the south, and it didn't start off very well, if I remember correctly. But yeah, the Mapuche ended up dominating. Um, yeah, they ended up dominating the Dutch pretty much the rest of the game. Yeah, and at this point, I had started building military too. And yeah, I was trying to chase that settler down, and I'm afraid I was committed to sniping it if if I saw a way out or escaping with him. All right. Um, what? Yeah, I had the golden age locked down by then. Yeah, Mitla was like allied to the Dutch very early, and they had a lot of points in them. And by this time, I realized that any war with the Dutch means I need to take out Mitla, or Mitla will fall at that point. Um, yeah, in hindsight, I was probably hanging out too close to Mitla, knowing that I could get a war deck from the Dutch anytime. Yeah, at this point, I was placing districts down. Um, don't recall at what turn the war deck actually happened. Yeah, the surprise war. Um, yeah, turn 85. But our land, yeah, we didn't have any city in the front line, which was going to be too vulnerable. And the kind of land that the Dutch had to get through was not the best. Um, But still, I mean, if they came at me with crossbows and man at arms, it would not be fun. Um, yeah, I ended up buying a bunch of units from this point on, and pretty much playing defense for the early part of the war. I had no choice. I mean, I had to. I didn't have the kind of unit strength, not in numbers, not in the unit quality, to actually be effective here. Um, but yeah, the power of monumentality. I had good enough faith to end up buying pretty much builders on demand for a good while. Um, yeah, that Yeah, I think it was around this time that um, it became apparent um, that I am definitely going to hold back the Dutch. And with some luck and planning, I can probably push into the Dutch and see and try to capture some of his cities. Um, but still, it was early days for that kind of for that game to evolve. And yeah, and I think I was still more concerned with planning my the wonders that I had planned and planning the districts down. However, I did get a city down eventually in the spot where Muscat used to be. Yeah, by now we had pretty much turned the world into friends, except for the Dutch. Um, and I believe at some point the Dutch were at war with Caesar briefly. I believe. Um, yeah, even though we were at war, I was definitely planning my expanse. Yeah, by this point, I think it was safe to assume that any forward push from the Dutch is pretty much over. But I had set my sights on capturing Mitla pretty much, and that was the plan for me from that point on. Um, yeah, but I'm pretty sure I put down a few more cities before all said and done. Yeah, the ability to convert to get crossbows and pikemen pretty much gave me an edge in working towards Mithla. And by this time, we had met all the other civilizations, Ethiopia and Norway. And yeah, although I'm not friendly with them right now, I'm pretty sure I ended up friending Norway. I think Ethiopia stayed, um, was antagonistic towards us pretty much the rest of the game. I believe Ethiopia was fighting either Hyongel or Kublai Khan. I forget who exactly, but yeah, he didn't like us for the rest of the game, I'm sure. Yeah, India had settled. I think Chennai pretty close to us, and um, yeah, it wasn't the best city placement ever, but it did flip to us as the game went on. There was no way India was going to keep that loyalty, and technically we didn't settle into him, so it didn't really affect our relationship at all. And I mean, we had been friends with Chandragupta for quite a many turns, so it kind of worked in our favor. Um, yeah, Groningen. I think Groningen fell pretty soon, and really, my main aim was to move into Mitla. Um, there was taking out Mitla was a priority at this point, and yeah, and Yongle was also fighting the Dutch. Yeah, at this point, I was getting very close to capturing Groningen and Mitla. But in my mausoleum city, I think stuff got delayed a bit because of how um, because of that city state units coming up that way. Um, yeah, Yeah, I was trying for Petra in that yeah, in that city, in the desert city there. And I mean that city was I settled specifically to get the Petra, but really I was so production challenged that I'm pretty sure I did not get the Petra in that city. Um, but it ended up working out. That's fine. Um, yeah, okay. I had forgotten about the fact that I switched to oligarchy at some point. Um, yeah, that totally helped with the war. At this point, I was expecting to lose a lot of units, but I knew I had the strength to take down stuff. Yeah, the Dutch were pretty much insistent on making peace, but all I was concerned about was basically moving in as close as possible to her. After Mitla, the plan was to move down to The Hague. We pretty much had the two coastals that we had settled. They basically ended up being very, very strong cities in the mid and late game. Um, yeah, there was no coastal game planned as such, but it pretty much worked out. The Hague is pretty much proof that the AI doesn't know how to settle cities. Um, yeah, it was such a bad placement for a city. That I think that area was like hugely drought prone, and um, I mean, pretty much the rest of the game, it was yeah, it yeah, that city was it did grow eventually, but then I couldn't put down any aqueducts, and fresh water was always a challenge, and that drought kept getting triggered every every like 20 turns or so for the rest of the game. Yeah, there were a couple of wonders I tried for in this game, which didn't materialize. But yeah, but our mausoleum was delayed because of those units moving up north. In hindsight, instead of the sacred path pantheon, um, goddess of craftsmen would have been so much better. That's the pantheon that gives you an extra production and faith on strategic resources. But yeah, yeah, literally like a couple turn from capturing the Hague. Yeah, and the Trebs didn't even come into play there. Um, at this point, I believe I've needed to regroup and essentially heal my units a bit, and I decided to peace out the Dutch. And I believe don't remember exactly what turn that happened, but it happened pretty much very early now. Yeah, switch to monarchy right there. And yeah, okay, I think I recall. So switching to monarchy made my units slightly less strong because I switched out of oligarchy. And because of that, I needed to kind of rethink how my units are going to be placed. So yeah, I definitely took peace right now. I think she offered it to me. Maybe next turn. I'm pretty sure she did. Yeah, the Dutch cities to my general southwest, I wasn't concerned about. Basically, as long as I got Utrecht and Amsterdam, which were like the highest pop cities that the Dutch had, everything else would kind of fall into place from that point on. And she offered me like an obscene amount of gold, which really made that choice, the decision, a lot easier. Yeah, I think this video is about to come to an end. In the next one, we um, pretty much started our sim plan, or other two pronged plan, trying to conquer, trying to move into the Dutch lands, and at the same time get a sim game going to pivot into either a science or a culture victory. Yeah, pretty much that was it. Thanks for watching, and um, yeah, the I'll try to get some audio on the next one too.